Hey, this is Matt once again. What about the other video? This is another paid request. This time from Manuel. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, what have you, feel free to send them either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below, and I will get to them as soon as I can. I also have a second YouTube channel, so feel free to subscribe to that, as well as have an Odysee channel that has a lot of my older videos archived. All those links are down below as well. Now this is Manuel wanted me to review the original 310 to Yuma from 1957, which I had heard of but I had never seen. It stars Glenn Ford, who I remember as Pa Kent in the original Superman movie, the Christopher Reeve film. You were sent here for a reason. It wasn't to score touchdowns. Which I always liked him in that movie. He plays the villain here. Van Heflin plays our lead character. Richard Jekyll, who I remember from Grizzly, among many other films. He plays a guy who worked with Glenn Ford's character. Pretty much the gist of the story is that after this title song where Frankie Lane's singing, which I didn't mind the song for its time, Glenn Ford and his group are using this cattle to stop this stagecoach, and our lead guy is a cattle rancher going, "Hey, that's my cattle. Well, you'll get them back in 5 minutes." So Van Heflin with his two kids pretty much have to sit and watch while Glenn Ford and his men steal this money and kill the driver. The driver pulled out a gun, has one of his men hostage. Glenn Ford shoots one of his men to get him out of the way, and then kills the driver. But then he goes up to the cow rancher and goes, "You know what? Give me your horses. I don't want you riding off, but here's your cattle back, and you get your horses at this place." So Glenn Ford's character, I mean, he's a villain, but at the same time he has some type of code, because he could have easily just killed him and the kids and all this stuff, but he doesn't. He could just steal the horses, but he doesn't. He's like, you get them at this location at this time. And, man of his word. So those men go into town, and they even, tell the marshal, "Hey, back there something happened. You better go get that settled." Meanwhile, the cow rancher goes back to his wife, and you get the idea that the wife is going, "Well, how come you didn't do anything?" And it's like, "Well, what was I supposed to do? There's like 12 of them." And at least the kids are not harping on him too much. They don't go over the top with that. But you can tell that it bothers the lead guy, Van Heflin's character, the cow rancher. It does bother him a bit that he couldn't do anything. Also, their ranch needs water because it hasn't rained in a while, and he doesn't know what to do. So the wife says, "Why don't you borrow money?" "I'm not going to beg." "Well, I mean, borrowing is not begging. And we need the water for the cattle. We need it to save this ranch." So he goes into town. I would say the movie has a really beautiful, nice black and white cinematography. Very stark in his images of that. I thought the cinematography was pretty solid. I did like the two leads. I thought Glenn Ford and Van Heflin did a very capable job. Glenn Ford is smooching on the barmaid, and Van Heflin comes in and, "Well, blah 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 with my cattle." So Glenn Ford gives him money. "Is that it?" And Van Heflin goes, "Well, give me $2 more for making me more nervous." Just the way Glenn Ford stared at him. I thought that was pretty ballsy, but kind of a funny line. "Well, give me $2 more for making me more nervous." Ultimately, Glenn Ford gets captured. His men are away, and they need volunteers to get Glenn Ford to the train, which is the 310 to Yuma. It pays $200. He accepts because he needs the money. And then I didn't expect this. A good chunk of the movie is just the two of them in this hotel room. Kind of these mind games, dialogue back and forth. I didn't expect that. I just assumed, okay, it's going to be a journey where they're going from here to the train station. Uh, Maybe the train station would have been in another town or something. And along the way, they have all these ups and downs of being attacked by Glenn Ford's group. No. Most of it is just waiting in this hotel room. So it's not the most exciting or explosive movie. It's not the most action-packed movie. There's a little bit of a shootout at the end, but not a whole lot. So if you expect a lot of action, you're gonna be very, very disappointed. The dialogue wasn't too bad. It's pretty much Glenn Ford trying to do anything he can to change the guy's mind. At one point, he tries to escape, and the lead guy stops him and then tells, "You feel better now?" At one point, Glenn Ford tries to bribe him. "Hey, I could give you this money." Then he tries to appease them, going, "Listen, I get it. You don't want a murderer to go. But listen, I didn't murder the guy. He pulled his gun first. It was self-defense. I work quiet, like you." And it was alright, the dialogue, but there was nothing that... You kind of wish you had maybe a writer of today, a good writer, going back to write this dialogue, and I'm not going to say like Tarantino, but it's something to really punch up the dialogue changes to really get a lot more gravitas or a lot more meaning of life or a lot more personal, even more personal ideals, history, background, past, in-depth conversations perhaps between these two to really pass the time a bit faster. Like they kind of, I thought, just glinted the surface. So I will say, for me, I thought at times it was a little bit boring. A little bit boring, and what's the word I'm looking for? Just not a whole lot happening. Just not a whole lot going on. Just not a whole lot of stuff. But the acting's pretty decent. Like I said, the black and white cinematography is spot on. The I get the idea where it's going for, where the lead guy is adamant to do this because he wants to find his courage and his honor. And there's a point where the town drunk is one of the volunteers, and he gave his life saving the lead guy. And then later on, the lead guy's wife comes by and goes, "Just stop, why are you doing this? Why are you going on with this?" And he says the line, "The town drunk gave his life because he believed that people can live in peace and decency together. You think I could do less?" And I like the way he's talking to his wife. Like, it'd be a nice story to tell the kids. And she's like, "Well, why are you talking like it's going to be a memory?" "No, I'm just saying, it'd be a nice story. Like, I took this guy to the train and I succeeded," and all that stuff. Sort of given the possibility that maybe he won't make it, and in case he doesn't make it, at least he died trying to be honorable and for a right cause and all that jazz. There's a point that he does save Glenn Ford's life, going, "Listen, if you kill him, that's murder, that's this and that." And Glenn Ford doesn't forget that for later on. The finale, there's some decent attempts at suspense because now it's just him and him alone to get this guy to the train. And like all the baggers are around the town, so he's got to kind of maneuver. He's got the gun behind Glenn Ford's back, and he's got to maneuver and using the cattle or using the environments. And Glenn Ford's like, "Hey, you sure you want to go that way? One of my men's up there. You sure you want to do that?" So Glenn Ford, I do like his performance. He's playing a kind of a cool under. He's cool under pressure, comfortable in his own skin. Not a mustache twirling villain. he has a little bit of that charisma, so you can see why some people would want to follow this guy or want to, or a barmaid would have a bit of the hots for this guy. While Van Heflin, he's holding his own part of the deal where he's a bit nervous, but at the same time he's not a wimp or anything. But he's not John Wayne and 100% knowing what to do. But I think either a lot more could have been done between let the story move along to different locales and different backdrops, or maybe more meaningful conversations about more of their ideals and where they come from. And I think there's a lot. It was a very popular movie when it came out, so I'm alone in this, but I just would like to have seen a bit more of that. Spoilers for those who haven't seen it. They're moving through town. I do like the way it looks where the train is passing by and all the smoke is literally encompassing them. And Richard Jacobs like, drop down, I'll get him. But Glenn Ford feels he owes this guy because the guy saved his life, so they both get on the train. And our lead shoots Richard Jacobs in self-defense. And even asks, why do you do that? I don't like own I don't like anybody owing any I don't like owing any favors to anybody. Plus it's fine. We're going to Yuma and I've escaped Yuma before. And the lead goes, well, my job is done once I get you there. After that, that's up to them. He's able to look out and there's his wife, and his wife is able to see that he's alive and she's happy. And lo and behold, it starts to rain, so almost as if this development of manhood and courage for our lead erupted in tears of joy from the gods to let it rain. And the music kind of rises up, and it's one of those films that I didn't hate. I didn't dislike it. I'm not a big Western guy. I've said that before. There are Westerns I do enjoy. I like Young Guns, that's my favorite Western. High Plains Drifter, The Man with No Name trilogy. I like Rio Bravo with John Wayne. Two Mules for Sister Sarah I liked. There's a few others. But I'm just saying I'm not like a gun-ho Western guy. I did see the newer one with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. I mean, indifferent on it. The way it ended, I get why they did it, but as Hollywood ending as it is, I do prefer the ending in this more. I just do. Just personal taste. I'm not going to give anything else away with that. But it's one of those films that, like I said, I kind of like the two leads. The black and white cinematography was very nice to look at. I just wish the story moved along. I wish most of it didn't just take place in a hotel room, and if it did, I wish the conversations were a lot more interesting. There's a little bit of the surface there, but I wish they were a lot more deeper, a lot more in depth, a lot more of these mind game, even more so back and forth between the two, their history, their ideals. Maybe even talk about other subject matters that give us a bit more insight into how they are as a person, whether bit why they came to the West in the first place, what is their meaning in being in the West, what is the ideals. Maybe one's more optimistic, one's more pessimistic, or one's more naive and one more cynical, and their thoughts of the myth of the Wild West and what's the reality, what's their version of reality of the West. I know I seem like I'm going a bit too deep, but I mean, if you don't center people in a hotel room for so long, I would prefer maybe bits of those type of conversations. But you need a little bit of the mind game again. Glenn Ford trying to get his way out of this as he can. At times trying to aid the lead guy on. But I think there's a lot more potential that could have been capitalized. But like I said, I mean, I've seen much worse films. I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's a badly made film. I like some of the high angles, especially when the hotel room, they're looking down, trying to see if anyone of Glenn Ford's men are around. But I also think like the tension could have been risen a bit more, whether it be certain, maybe more different camera angles or a bit more bits of tension, which I saw in like the Sergio Leone movies, with close up to the eyes, close up to the hand near the gun, and the editing there. Like I saw more in those Man with No Name trilogy movies. The kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, the final shootout, with the music and face, face, face. Who's going to do it first? Who's going to pull the gun first? Which is why I get more into those films compared to this. But again, do I think this is a bad film? No. The two leads, like I said, did their jobs fairly well. Definitely a reflection of the older type of Western movies. I don't even know if you could do it again where, I don't know, people would maybe think it's too hokey or too unrealistic, too overly sentimental, however you want to put it. It's just nowadays, like, people know the West were a much harsher, grimier, grittier realm of reality. And I don't know if you'd ever do one of those, like, John Wayne type of movies again. Just people would just go, that's false, that's BS, that's crap. Maybe for, like, a kid's show, like, maybe they would do it. But I mean, like, a mainstream movie. I don't know if you could do that again. I think that's kind of lost in time, because once you unveiled and saw the truth of the matter, it's kind of hard to put that veil back up. So it's definitely a reminder of a type of film that was made plenty of times back in the day in the 50s and 40s and so forth, but you'll never see again. So it was kind of nice to see that bit of style of a film. Some would say like the John Ford or other attributes. Not that they were cookie cutter, but again, it's just definitely a different reflection of the Wild West compared to Unforgiven. If you see a Western, it's going to be much more of a harsh, brutal, because it was a harsh, brutal time. Tombstone. I love Tombstone. That's another one of my favorite Westerns. Love Tombstone. But anyway, as one of my neighbor's roosters agrees with me, I guess, it was nice to revisit a West, to visit, because I've never, not revisit, I've never seen this one before, to visit a Western that has that kind of old-fashioned, take on it. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.